Jack Miller adjusted his uniform collar for the 10th time in the past hour. The recycled air aboard the Celestial Accord felt too clean in his lungs. After spending 35 years on Earth, 15 of those as a Chicago firefighter, his body almost missed the familiar mix of pollutants and particulates that had become his normal. Ambassador Miller, please proceed to meeting Chamber 3. The Zethar delegation awaits your arrival, announced the ship's AI in a pleasant, gender-neutral voice. Jack checked his reflection in the polished metal surface of his quarters. At 40, his face showed the weathering of someone who had spent too much time around smoke and chemicals. The small scar above his left eyebrow from a falling beam during his 3rd year on the job had faded, but never disappeared completely. Humanity's first diplomat to the Zethar wasn't exactly the picture of refined diplomacy. But Earth's space agency had insisted that the insectoid aliens specifically requested someone with environmental adaptation experience. Only later did Jack understand why a firefighter had been selected instead of a career diplomat. Remember, Miller, said Captain Vance as Jack prepared to leave his quarters, these bugs are jumpy. The Zethar evolved on a planet with predators that hunted by sound. They feel everything more intensely than we do. Keep your voice low. Movements slow. Jack nodded. Got it, Captain. No sudden movements, no loud noises. The corridor leading to meeting Chamber 3 stretched before him, its walls gleaming with the polished perfection that characterized Alliance vessels. Everything about the Celestial Accord felt sterile to Jack. Too perfect. Too clean. Nothing like the messy, chaotic world of Earth. The door to the chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, 5 Zethar representatives stood around a circular table. Their exoskeletons shimmered with an iridescent blue-green hue under the soft lighting. Multiple compound eyes tracked Jack's movement as he entered. Their 4 upper limbs remained perfectly still, but their lower limbs shifted nervously. Greetings, representatives of the Zethar Collective, Jack said, keeping his voice at the practiced low volume he'd been trained to use. I am Jack Miller, Earth's representative. I bring peaceful intentions from my planet. The tallest Zethar stepped forward. Its mandibles clicked softly as it spoke, the translator at Jack's ear converting the sounds to English with only a slight delay. Earth representative, I am Kivzik, lead negotiator of the collective. Your presence here is unexpected. Humans have only recently achieved interstellar capability. Jack smiled carefully, remembering not to show teeth. We're quick learners. The meeting progressed with formal introductions. Jack noticed the Zethar kept their distance, occasionally vibrating their antenna when he moved too quickly. The Alliance mediator, a tall humanoid with pale blue skin named Lorex, guided them through the preliminary discussions of trade potential. 3 hours into the meeting, Jack noticed something odd. The Zethar were exchanging quick glances with their compound eyes. One by one, they began to make excuses to leave the chamber. Is everything all right? Jack asked Lorex when only one Zethar remained. Before Lorex could answer, the ship's alarm sounded. Not the blaring klaxon Jack expected, but a soft, pulsing tone. All non-essential personnel, please return to quarters, announced the ship's AI. Environmental adjustments in progress. The last Zethar hurried from the room without explanation. Lorex looked uncomfortable. Miller, please return to your quarters immediately. There appears to be a situation. Back in his quarters, Jack paced nervously. Something was wrong. The comm system remained silent despite his attempts to contact Captain Vance or any crew member. His diplomatic training had covered first contact protocols, but nothing about sudden meeting adjournments or mysterious environmental adjustments. An hour later, Jack noticed a faint smell. At first it was barely perceptible. Something like burning plastic mixed with the sharp tang of industrial cleaner. Within minutes the odor intensified, seeping through the ventilation system into his quarters. Jack's first instinct was to grab the emergency breather beside his bed, but curiosity stopped him. The smell was oddly familiar. It reminded him of the old manufacturing district back home, the mixture of chemicals that used to drift across his neighborhood on hot summer days when he was a kid. A thin mist began to fill the room, hugging the floor before slowly rising. Jack took an experimental breath. His nose tingled, and his eyes watered slightly, but otherwise he felt fine. In fact, the scent brought back memories of his childhood apartment near the industrial zone, of his father coming home with that same smell clinging to his work clothes. The ship's comm system suddenly activated. "Human Miller," came a panicked voice. "Report your status immediately." Jack raised an eyebrow at the ceiling sensor. "I'm fine. Is there a problem?" A long silence followed before the voice returned, higher pitched with what sounded like confusion. "You are unaffected? By what?" Another pause. "The room security feed shows your quarters are filled with a substance." Jack looked around at the mist that now reached his waist. "Oh, this fog? Yeah, I noticed. Smells strange, but not harmful. Should I be concerned?" The silence that followed lasted even longer. Jack heard chittering in the background before the voice returned. "Human Miller, please remain in your quarters. A security team will arrive shortly." Before Jack could ask more questions, the comms cut off. He sat on his bed, puzzled but not alarmed. The mist continued to thicken until he could barely see across his small quarters. His nose had adjusted to the smell now, the initial irritation fading to something almost nostalgic. 20 minutes later, the door to his quarters slid open. 3 figures in full environmental suits stood in the doorway, their postures suggesting shock at finding Jack sitting calmly on his bed reading reports on his tablet. "Sir," said the center figure, voice muffled through the suit. "Are you... well?" Jack stood, waving away some of the mist. "I'm fine. What's going on?" The figures exchanged glances before the lead one stepped forward cautiously. "Sir, your quarters have been flooded with Zithar nightmare vapor. It's their most effective defensive weapon. Causes paralyzing terror in most species." Jack blinked, looking around at the mist with new understanding. "This is a weapon?" "Yes, sir. The Zithar delegation believed humans were hiding military capabilities. This was their test of our vulnerabilities." Jack inhaled deeply, the familiar industrial scent filling his lungs. A smile crossed his face as he remembered summer evenings. On his grandmother's porch, the nearby factories pumping out the same cocktail of chemicals. "Well," he said with a laugh, "you can tell them their terror gas just smells like home to me." The 3 figures stood motionless in the doorway, their silence conveying their astonishment more clearly than words ever could. News of Jack's immunity to the fear gas spread quickly through the Celestial Accord. By the next morning, the ship buzzed with rumors and whispers. Crew members stared at him in the corridors. Some looked afraid. Others seemed curious. Jack ignored them and focused on his breakfast. Captain Vance slid into the seat across from him in the dining hall. Her face looked tired with dark circles under her eyes. "You've caused quite a problem, Miller," she said, keeping her voice low. Jack put down his fork. "I didn't do anything. They gassed me. And you didn't react. That's the problem." She leaned, bored. "The Zithar are in panic mode. They think humans are hiding something. They've called an emergency alliance meeting." "Because I didn't get scared by their gas?" Captain Vance nodded. "Their nightmare vapor has worked on every species they've encountered for the past 300 years. It's their greatest defense, and you just sat there breathing it like it was nothing." Jack shrugged. "I grew up 3 blocks from the old Harrison chemical plant in Chicago. That stuff smelled like Tuesday afternoon to me." "Well, your Tuesday afternoons have caused an interstellar incident." She pushed a tablet across the table. "The Alliance medical officer wants to see you immediately. The Zithar have demanded tests." An hour later, Jack sat on an examination table in the medical bay. Dr. Samantha Wells scanned him with various devices, her expression growing more surprised with each reading. "This is remarkable," she said, studying the screen. "Your body has adaptations I've never seen before." Jack watched her work. Dr. Wells was in her 40s with streaks of gray in her brown hair. Her movements were quick and efficient. "What kind of adaptations?" he asked. "Your lungs have cellular structures that can process certain toxins differently." She showed him an image that meant nothing to Jack. See these receptor sites? In most species, the compounds in Zithar fear gas bind here and trigger panic responses in the brain. But your receptors are shaped differently. The compounds can't connect properly. So instead of fear, I just get nostalgia? Dr. Wells nodded. Essentially, yes. It's fascinating from a medical perspective. The fear gas contains chemicals similar to those found in industrial pollution on Earth. Your body evolved to handle them. The door to the medical bay slid open. A tall Zithar entered, followed by Captain Vance. Jack recognized the Zithar as Kivzik, the lead negotiator. Human Miller, Kivzik said, mandibles clicking softly. You have created confusion among my people. Jack sat up straighter. I didn't mean to. I wish to understand. Kivzik moved closer, compound eyes reflecting the medical bay lights. Our records show Earth is a Class 3 developing world with significant pollution levels. Is this why you resist our defenses? Dr. Wells stepped forward. If I may explain the human immune response, no, Kivzik interrupted. I wish to hear from the human directly. Jack thought for a moment. I grew up in a place called Chicago. Parts of it were very polluted when I was young. Later, I became a firefighter and breathed in smoke and chemicals for 15 years. My body got used to it. Kivzik's antennae twitched. You willingly exposed yourself to toxins as an occupation? To save lives, yes. Jack saw no reason to lie. Most humans adapt to their environments. People who work around smoke develop resistances. People who live in high mountains develop stronger lungs. A second Zithar entered the room. This one was smaller, with dark green markings on its exoskeleton. This is Vextil, our biological sciences expert, Kivzik explained. We request permission to conduct more detailed tests. Captain Vance frowned. What kind of tests? Vextil stepped forward. Non-invasive neural scans, and exposure to increasing concentrations of our defense compounds. You want to gas him again? Captain Vance sounded alarmed. I'll do it, Jack said quickly. Everyone turned to look at him. If it helps prevent misunderstandings, I'm willing. 2 hours later, Jack sat in a sealed chamber. Through the clear walls he could see Dr. Wells, Captain Vance, and 5 Zithar watching him. A thin mist began to fill the room, thicker than before. We are introducing the vapor at 3 times normal concentration. Vextil's voice came through the speaker. Please report your sensations. Jack breathed deeply. The smell was stronger now, making his eyes water slightly. It's more intense, but still just a smell. Reminds me of the paint factory that used to be near my childhood apartment. The Zithar conferred among themselves, antennae twitching rapidly. The mist grew thicker. 5 times normal concentration, Vextil announced. This would cause severe reactions in most species. The vapor now filled the room completely. Jack could barely see the observers through the thick fog. His throat felt slightly irritated, but nothing serious. Makes me cough a little, he reported. But mainly brings back memories. Summer nights with the windows open. The smell would drift in from the factories. The tests continued for another hour. The Zithar increased the concentration to dangerous levels, while Dr. Wells monitored Jack's vital signs. Throughout it all, Jack remained calm, occasionally becoming nostalgic as certain chemical combinations triggered specific memories. Finally, the vapor cleared. Jack exited the chamber to find the Zithar in what appeared to be an agitated state. Their limbs moved rapidly, and their communication clicks were too fast for the translators to keep up. Dr. Wells pulled Jack aside. Do you realize what you've done? You've just survived exposure levels that would kill most species in the Alliance. Captain, Vance joined them, looking worried. The Zithar are split. Some think humans must be hiding advanced biological engineering. Others believe Earth's pollution created natural super soldiers. That's ridiculous, Jack said. We're not super anything. We just adapted to our environment. Kivzik approached them. The Zithar's movements seemed more controlled now. Human? Miller, it said. My delegation requires time to process this information. Some wish to recommend severing relations with Earth. Others see potential value in your species' adaptations. Jack felt a flash of concern. This wasn't some trick, it's just how my body works. Perhaps. Kivzik's mandibles clicked slowly. But you must understand our perspective. Our greatest defense is useless against your kind. This changes the balance of power. As Kivzik walked away, Captain Vance turned to Jack. I think you just made history, Miller. I'm just not sure if it's good history or bad history yet. Jack watched the Zethar delegation leave, their exoskeletons catching the light. I never thought breathing Chicago air would become a diplomatic incident. Dr. Wells smiled slightly. Sometimes our greatest strengths come from what others see as weaknesses. She looked at her medical scanner. I'd like to run more tests if you're willing. Your physiology could help us understand how different species adapt to environmental challenges. Jack nodded, his mind on the implications of what had just happened. A lifetime of breathing polluted air had somehow turned him into an accidental diplomat with an unexpected advantage. He wondered what other surprises humans might bring to the galactic community. Over the next week, Jack became the center of attention aboard the Celestial Accord. Scientists from various Alliance species asked to study him. Dr. Wells set up a special research lab where Jack spent most of his days undergoing tests and answering countless questions about life on Earth. Tell me again about these factories near your home, asked Dr. Wells as she analyzed blood samples. Jack leaned back in his chair. They made everything. Chemicals, paint, processed metals. The air always had a distinct smell, especially in summer. My mom used to complain, but after a while you just got used to it. Fascinating. Dr. Wells looked up from her screen. Most species would develop illnesses from such exposure. Humans seem to adapt instead. A small delegation of Zithar scientists entered the lab. Their leader, the green-marked Vextil, approached with cautious steps. We have reviewed the test results, Vextil said. Our council is most interested in human adaptation capabilities. Jack noticed the Zithar seemed less nervous around him now. Their antennae still twitched occasionally, but they maintained a closer distance than before. What specifically interests your council? Dr. Wells asked. The human's neural pathways process. Fear differently. Vextil gestured to Jack. Our vapor targets specific receptors in the brain that trigger terror responses. These receptors exist in all Alliance species we have encountered. But in humans, they function differently. Another Zethar stepped forward. This one had blue markings and was introduced as Klizak, the cultural attaché. I wish to learn more about Earth's environments, Klizak said. Our historical records show your planet has undergone rapid industrial development with significant environmental impact. Jack nodded. That's true. Many of our cities had serious pollution problems during our industrial growth. Some still do. Dr. Wells pulled up images of Earth on the main screen. Pictures of city skylines with smog, industrial zones with smoke, stacks and traffic-filled highways appeared. Humans have lived with these conditions for generations, she explained. Their bodies adapted over time. Klizak's compound eyes focused on the images. On our world, such conditions would be considered uninhabitable. Yet humans not only survive but thrive. We're stubborn that way, Jack said with a small smile. The conversation was interrupted when Captain Vance entered the lab with a serious expression. We have a situation, she said. The Alliance Council has called an emergency session regarding Earth's status. The Ardelian representatives are demanding a full investigation into human biology. Jack frowned. The Ardelians? I haven't even met them yet. They're longtime rivals of the Zethar, explained Dr. Wells. If the Zethar fear gas doesn't work on humans, then the Ardelians see potential military allies, finished Vextil, antennae flat against its head, in what Jack had learned was a sign of concern. The next day, Jack found himself in the Alliance Council chamber. Representatives from 12 different species sat in a semicircle of raised seats. The Ardelian delegation occupied seats directly across from the Zithar. Their appearance surprised Jack. They looked almost human, except for their pale blue skin and six-fingered hands. "The Council recognizes Earth Representative Jack Miller," announced the Council leader, a tall being with glowing tendrils, where a face would be on a human. Jack stood, feeling uncomfortable in his formal diplomatic uniform. "Thank you, Council leader." The lead Ardelian, a female with silver markings on her face, spoke first. "We wish to formally extend an invitation to Earth to join the Ardelian Defensive Pact. Humans have demonstrated unique biological capabilities that would benefit our mutual security interests." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Jack caught Captain Vance's eye. She subtly shook her head, warning him to be careful. "I appreciate the offer," Jack said slowly, "but I'm not authorized to enter into military alliances. I'm here as a cultural representative." "The human is being modest," the Ardelian continued. "Tests confirm their species has immunity to Zethar weaponry. This changes the balance of power in our sector." Kivzik rose from the Zethar section. "The Ardelian portrayal is flawed. Human resistance is a natural adaptation, not a military advantage." The debate grew heated. Jack listened as species he'd never met discussed humans as if they were either a threat or an opportunity. Few seemed interested in actual cultural exchange anymore. During a break in the proceedings, Dr. Wells approached Jack with a tablet. "I found something interesting," she said quietly. "Look at these neural scans from your tests." Jack looked at the colorful brain images but couldn't make sense of them. "What am I seeing?" "The fear gas doesn't fail to affect you," Dr. Wells explained. "It affects you differently. Where other species experience terror, you experience mild nostalgia or comfort. The chemical compounds interact with your brain in a completely unique way." Before Jack could respond, Klezak joined them. "I have studied Earth's environmental history," the Zethar said. "Your city survived conditions that would destroy Zethar colonies. Chicago, where you lived, had particularly high levels of industrial compounds similar to our defensive chemicals." "It wasn't always pleasant," Jack admitted. "Many people got sick. We've worked hard to clean up our environment." "Yet you adapted," Klezak said. "This is why my people are reconsidering their position on humans. What we saw as primitive resilience may actually be evolutionary advantage." The council reconvened, but this time Dr. Wells asked to speak. She presented her findings about human neurochemistry, explaining how environmental factors on Earth had created unique adaptations. "Humans don't just tolerate toxins," she concluded. "Their brains process certain chemical signals differently. What triggers fear in most species can trigger comfort in humans, depending on their personal experiences." The council chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. Jack watched the faces of the alien representatives, seeing a mix of concern, interest, and new respect. "In light of this information," the council leader announced, "we will expand the human diplomatic presence. We request additional representatives from various Earth regions to better understand human adaptations." After the session ended, Jack found himself standing with Klezak near a viewing window overlooking the stars. "Your people are not what we expected," the Zethar admitted. Jack smiled. "We're full of surprises, sometimes even to ourselves. The smell of home is different for every species," Klezak said philosophically. "For you, it is what others fear. For us, it is the scent of safety burrows beneath the surface of our world." Jack nodded, understanding that this unusual first contact, beginning with fear gas and confusion, was developing into something more interesting. A true cultural exchange based on their differences rather than similarities. 2 days after the council meeting, Jack received an unexpected visitor in his quarters. A message on his door panel announced the arrival of Nixala, an Ardelian diplomat. Jack had met several Ardelians since the council session, but none had sought him out privately. "Enter," Jack called, putting aside his reports. The door slid open to reveal a tall Ardelian with shimmering blue skin. Like others of her species, she had 6 fingers on each hand and large, pupilless eyes that seemed to change color with the light. "Human Miller," she said with a slight bow. "I appreciate you receiving me without notice." Jack gestured to the chair across from him. "How can I help you, Diplomat Nixla?" The Ardelian sat gracefully. "I come with a proposal from my government, one I believe will interest you." She placed a small device on the table between them. It projected a hologram, showing a planet with 2 moons. "This is Ardel Prime, our homeworld," she explained. "For centuries we have faced threats from the Zethar Collective. Their fear gas has been their greatest advantage in our conflicts." Jack kept his face neutral. "I'm not authorized to discuss military matters." "Of course not," Nixela smiled. "This is merely a cultural exchange. We wish to offer Earth advanced technology in exchange for human consultation on chemical resistance training." "Sounds military to me," Jack replied. Nixela leaned forward. "Consider your position, Human Miller. Earth is new to the galactic community. You need allies with resources and technology. The Zithar see you as a threat to be studied. We see you as equals to be partnered with." Something about her tone made Jack uncomfortable. The offer seemed too generous, too eager. "I'll pass your proposal to Earth's diplomatic corps," he said, carefully. After Nixla left, Jack contacted Dr. Wells and explained the strange meeting. "The timing is suspicious," Dr. Wells said. "The Ardelians never showed interest in Earth before the fear gas incident." "Exactly," Jack agreed. "I think I need to talk to Klezak." He found the Zethar cultural attaché in the ship's botanical garden, studying Earth plant specimens. The insectoid alien's antennae twitched in greeting. "Human Jack," said Klezak. "You appear troubled." Jack explained the visit from Nixela and her eager proposal. Klezak's compound eyes flickered rapidly. A sign Jack had learned indicated concern. "The Ardelians are opportunists," Klezak said. "For generations they have sought advantages against our defensive capabilities." "I'm starting to think this whole situation feels wrong," Jack said. "First the fear gas test, now this sudden Ardelian interest. What if these events are connected?" Klezak went very still, a posture Jack had never seen before. "This possibility had not occurred to us," the Zithar admitted. "Our diplomatic contingent was informed of potential human threats just before your arrival. The source was an anonymous report." A thought struck Jack. "Klezak, who controls the environmental systems on this ship?" "The Alliance maintains neutral control of the Celestial Accord," Klezak answered. "But guest quarters can be individually adjusted by maintenance crews. And who has access to those controls?" "Various personnel, including..." Klezak paused. "Including Ardelian technical specialists." Jack and Klezak spent the next hours reviewing security logs with Captain Vance's help. They discovered that an Ardelian technician had accessed the environmental controls for the human quarters shortly before the fear gas was released. "This suggests the Ardelians knew about the test before it happened," Captain Vance said gravely. "Or they arranged it," Jack added. Meanwhile, Dr. Wells continued studying the chemical composition of the fear gas. She found subtle differences between the standard Zethar formula and what was used on Jack. "It was modified," she told Jack when they met in her lab. "Someone added compounds specifically designed to maximize effect on most Alliance species." Making the Zethar look more aggressive than they intended, Jack concluded. The next day, Earth's senior ambassador arrived on the Celestial Accord. Olivia Harrington was in her 60s with short gray hair and a no-nonsense attitude. She listened carefully as Jack, Dr. Wells, and Captain Vance presented their findings. "So you believe the Ardelians engineered this incident?" Ambassador Harrington asked. "The evidence suggests they escalated it," Jack replied. "They may have modified the fear gas formula used by the Zethar, knowing how I would react. Then they positioned themselves to benefit from the diplomatic fallout." Ambassador Harrington nodded slowly. "Classic divide and conquer. Create tension between us and the Zethar, then sweep in with friendly offers." She turned to Captain Vance. "I want to address the Alliance Council, and I want Mr. Miller and Dr. Wells with me." The council chamber was more crowded than before. Word had spread that the human ambassador would be making an important announcement. Jack sat beside Dr. Wells, watching Ambassador Harrington stand confidently before the assembled alien representatives. Honored council members, she began. Earth thanks you for your welcome into the galactic community. We came seeking friendship and knowledge. Unfortunately, it appears others sought to use our arrival for political advantage. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Ardelian delegation shifted uncomfortably. Ambassador Harrington nodded to Dr. Wells, who stood and presented her findings about the modified fear gas. Jack followed with his account of Nixala's visit and their discovery of Ardelian access to the environmental controls. We believe, Ambassador Harrington continued, that certain parties attempted to create artificial tension between humans and the Zethar collective. They hope to exploit our biological differences for military advantage. The lead Ardelian diplomat rose to object, but the evidence was clear. The council leader called for an immediate investigation. In the chaos that followed, Jack found himself standing beside Klezak. Your people showed wisdom, the Zethar said. Many new species would have embraced the opportunity for advantage. Jack shrugged. We've learned from our history that alliances built on deception don't last. Besides, we're more interested in understanding your fear gas than using it. Perhaps this understanding is the beginning of true alliance, Klezak suggested. One, based on respecting our differences rather than exploiting them. When the council reconvened later that day, the Zethar proposed a new framework for human-Zethar relations. Rather than viewing human immunity as a threat, they suggested a cooperative research program focusing on environmental adaptations. Ambassador Harrington agreed immediately. Earth has much to learn from the Zethar about environmental protection, and perhaps our adaptations can provide insights that benefit both our peoples. As the meeting ended, Jack realized his accidental diplomacy had shifted from proving human worth to showcasing human integrity. In exposing the Ardelian plot, Earth had demonstrated they valued honest relations over tactical advantage. It wasn't what he had expected when he first breathed in that strange-smelling gas and thought of home. 6 months passed. Jack stood in the command center of the newly commissioned Earth-Zethar Joint Station, orbiting a neutral planet in Sector 7. The station, named Concordia, represented the first major cooperative project between humans and the Zethar collective. Status report on the cleanup operation? Jack asked. A young human technician named Frank looked up from his console. Team 3 reports they've neutralized 60% of the chemical spill on the southern continent. The Zethar detoxification protocols are working better than expected. Jack nodded with satisfaction. After the diplomatic incident aboard the Celestial Accord, his career had taken an unexpected turn. Instead of continuing as a cultural ambassador, he now led the Joint Human-Zethar Emergency Response Team. Their mission: tackle environmental disasters that threatened developing worlds in Alliance space. The door to the command center slid open, and Klezak entered. The Zithar's exoskeleton had new markings, blue stripes signifying promotion to Senior Environmental Specialist. Human Jack, Klezak greeted him. The Council sends congratulations on our latest success. The Milar settlement can now return to their coastal regions. Jack smiled. Your detoxification compounds did most of the work. All we did was figure out how to deploy them effectively. A perfect symbiosis, Klezak replied. Your resistance to toxins allows your team to work in conditions my people cannot tolerate. Our chemical knowledge provides the solutions. It was true. The partnership had proven remarkably effective. Zethar scientists developed powerful compounds to neutralize environmental contaminants, while human team members could apply these treatments in toxic zones without protective gear that might slow them down. Dr. Wells joined them, carrying a tablet with the latest test results. In the month since the fear gas incident, she had become the leading expert on human Zethar biological coordination. The bacterial cultures from Chicago are thriving in the test areas, she reported. They're consuming the industrial waste at 3 times the projected rate. This had been one of their most surprising discoveries. Bacteria from Earth's most polluted regions could be used to clean up certain types of contaminants on other worlds. Chicago strain bacteria, as they were now called in scientific papers, across the Alliance had become valuable exports from Earth. The trade minister sent a message, Dr. Wells continued. 4 more Alliance worlds have requested bacterial samples. Earth is becoming known for environmental restoration technology rather than just resistance to toxins. Jack found this deeply satisfying. What had started as an embarrassing diplomatic incident had transformed into an unexpected opportunity. Earth, once seen as a polluted developing world, was now respected for turning its environmental challenges into solutions. A communication alert sounded. The main screen activated to show Ambassador Harrington. "Good news, Miller," she said. "The Alliance Council has officially designated humans as having environmentally adaptive biology classification. It's quite an honor, previously reserved for species with millions of years of space presence." "That's fantastic," Jack replied. "How did the Ardelians take it?" Ambassador Harrington smiled slightly. "They abstained from the vote but didn't oppose it. Since their plot was exposed, they've been remarkably cooperative. Sometimes embarrassment is a powerful diplomatic tool." After the call ended, Jack checked his schedule. A new group of human trainees would arrive tomorrow, the fourth such group in as many months. Earth's space agency was now specifically recruiting people from industrial backgrounds for diplomatic and environmental response roles. "Will you address the new arrivals?" Klezak asked. Jack nodded. "I want to prepare them for working with the Zithar teams. Many of them have never met non-human species before." "You should tell them your story," Dr. Wells suggested, "about the fear gas. It helps them understand why they're here." Later that evening, Jack stood in the station's observation lounge, looking out at the stars. He reflected on how far things had come from that first confused encounter. The door opened, and he turned to see Frank escorting a group of new arrivals who had just docked. "And this is Jack Miller," Frank was saying. "The man who started our partnership with the Zithar." A young woman with dark hair stepped forward. "Sir, I've read all about your experience. Is it true you just breathed in their fear gas like it was nothing?" Jack smiled. "Not exactly like nothing. It reminded me of home. I grew up near the cleanup zone in Detroit," another trainee said. "They told us that's why we were selected." "Your background is now an advantage," Jack explained. "What many would see as a hardship, growing up in polluted areas, has given you adaptations that make you uniquely valuable here." The trainees looked at him with a mixture of pride and curiosity. Jack continued, "Tomorrow you'll meet our Zithar colleagues. They used to be afraid of humans because we don't react to their defensive chemicals. Now they respect us for the same reason." "Is it true they modified their greeting ceremony for humans?" one of the trainees asked. Jack nodded. "They now include exposure to mild irritants as a sign of respect. It's quite an honor in their culture, acknowledging our unique resilience." The next morning, Jack watched as the new human team members met their Zithar counterparts for the first time. The insectoid aliens released a small puff of scented mist, a greatly diluted version of their fear gas, as they extended their upper limbs in greeting. The humans, warned in advance, breathed in calmly and returned the gesture. Klezak stood beside Jack, observing the interaction. "They adapt well," the Zithar noted. "Like you did." "Humans are good at making the best of difficult situations," Jack replied. "This is what impressed us most," Klezak said. "Not your immunity to our weapons, but your ability to find opportunity in adversity." 3 days later, the station received emergency coordinates. A mining accident on a nearby moon had released toxic compounds into a settlement. The joint team deployed immediately, humans working alongside Zithar in their first real emergency response. As Jack supervised the operation from the command shuttle, he watched humans walk unprotected through clouds of chemicals that would send most species into panic, applying Zithar neutralizing agents to affected areas. Dr. Wells joined him at the view screen. "It's working exactly as we hoped," she said. "Who would have thought that breathing polluted air would someday save lives across the galaxy?" Jack smiled as he watched the humans and Zithar working together. "Sometimes our greatest disadvantages become our greatest strengths. We just needed the right situation to reveal it." On the surface below, a human response team member looked up and waved at the command shuttle, giving a thumbs-up signal. Behind, A cloud of neutralized toxins dissipated into harmless particles, making another small part of the universe safer, one breath at a time.